The biggest story today, which is the national elections taking place in Pakistan. The South Asian nation has about 128 million registered voters who are out in the streets, and they are in the polling booth voting as we speak. And to discuss this further, we have been joined with us political activist and journalist Reham Khan, live from Lahore. Ms. Khan, thank you so much for joining us here on WION.
Thank you, Ananya.
Right, we just got a report actually that one security personnel has been killed in the Ismail Khandera region. If you could get us, what's the situation in the ground? What are you seeing around Lahore?
So, of course, Lahore, as we mentioned last night as well, is, where the grand tussle for power is taking place. So in Lahore, it seems to be all peaceful and polling is underway. It is improving. The voter turnout was a little bit slow this morning, but I think it's just the nature of a holiday as well as the Lahori mood, perhaps. But the polls have been looking fairly peaceful. People are very engaged. Three of the constituencies, we've seen the major leaders, Nawaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif cast their vote in Lahore. And also, particularly for Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz Sharif, they have been seen casting their vote for one of their allies. And that's a key constituency, and a 128. Even in Sindh, Bilal Bhutto and Asifa Zardari started the day off, and Asifa went out to vote fairly early this morning. There has been a fairly healthy voter turnout in Lahore. Karachi as well, I think it's not looking too bad. Of course, there is that expectation that the young voters will potentially change the game. But I do think that there is an element of a rage vote from fans and loyalists and voters of PTI. But there's also a nervous or a panic vote on the behalf of PMLN, because I think the perception that there will be a huge voter turnout for PTI is making everyone pull up their socks and get into action.
Ms. Khan,
fairly pleasant at the moment.
Yeah, that's actually good to hear. Ms. Khan, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned the youth element in national elections in Pakistan, and we'll come to that in a moment. But I want to take your opinion on something that we have got here. Mobile services have been temporarily suspended over security concerns in Pakistan. Rights group are calling it undemocratic, and PTI has in fact called the move an outrageous act of pre-poll rigging. Your thoughts, Ms. Khan?
I think it is unnecessary, of course. I mean, when there are bomb blasts in Deir Ismail Khan, and when there are bomb blasts in Balochistan, and, a potential serious terror threat, there are those arguments that you do need to suspend mobile services, because we do have services from home-based and office-based Wi-Fi's. But I think Bilal Bhutto, chairman of the Pakistan People's Party, has also called it out, because, of course, it's very difficult to keep yourself engaged with your polling agents and to keep abreast with what's happening in the polling stations. So I think it is perhaps a little bit unnecessary. And I think it's not only the PTI, but everyone is calling out. It is a huge problem for journalists like myself and for media houses as well, because people are out and about. So for the digital wings, it's a problem because we can't really report accurately or efficiently from the ground. So it is unnecessary, perhaps a bit of heavy-handedness. But I think it is less to do with pre-poll or poll rigging and more to do with the fact that there are serious concerns. And as I said, we are very happy that the scenes in Lahore, Islamabad and Karachi have been, fingers crossed, very, very peaceful up until now.
Right. Taking that further, about 29% of Pakistan's population is the youth. And me being part of this age group, I can tell you that we rely on our mobile internet for a lot of the news coming in. If you club that with the fact that parties like the PTI and the PPP are genuinely relying on this group for support for votes, do you think a shutdown like this affects them?
I think it goes both ways. I mean, I take issue with the fact that only the young people use it. It's been a huge problem, as you would realize, even with the broadcast today as well. So, I mean, I've had a really bad start to the day because mobile-based services have been suspended. So it's not, I think, any age group that is inconvenienced. Every age group is very upset about it. But I think for as far as the PTI is concerned, because they have a much better presence on social media, much better digital presence. And I think that for them, they have, I mean, full marks to them. They have been actually doing a brilliant campaign, using AI, using pre-recorded messages. I was noticing that even in your broadcast last night, and a lot of people think that the broadcast that has been issued by the PTI skipper is actually from last year. It's sort of regurgitating, it's recycling the old message. So I think that their campaign was, I was watching it on my phone up until 6 o'clock, up until 8 o'clock this morning.
Right.
They had a very heavy campaign running. So I think it's more inconvenience for people who are actually candidates and want to be in touch with their polling agents to find out what's the situation in the polling stations so that they can perhaps encourage people to come out. And I think that is the major inconvenience. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm relying on my phone, my mobile phone, for any news coming in. So it's very difficult. Maybe it's a conspiracy for us to watch mainstream TV and stay at home. I don't know, but it is a huge inconvenience. But I don't really think that it's affecting the campaign for PTI because they've had a very, very efficient campaign. I mean, they've had a lot of obstacles because a lot of the apps that they were using, a lot of the services were suspended, but they've, they're very good at reinventing and using ingenuity. So they've used other sources and other apps and led a very effective campaign. Sadly, I wish that the candidates were not as unrecognizable because none of these candidates look anything like PTI. They don't.
Exactly. I was just going to come to that. Their campaign seems to be a success, but their top leaders are missing. So what does that mean for their campaign at all? Ms. Khan, please stay with us. We are also being told that our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik is joining us live from Islamabad. Anas, what is the latest you have for us?
Well, we've driven from all the way from Lahore to Islamabad, and it won't be wrong to say that at this point of time, at least up until mid-afternoon, we haven't seen much of an impressive voter turnout. There isn't much traffic on the roads as well. There is, it's a public holiday, but despite of that, people haven't really opted as of now to come out on the roads. As Mr. Ham was rightly pointing out, we might be seeing a change in trend as the day progresses. We were earlier in the morning, just before the networks went down, we were in the constituency of Nawaz Sharif, reporting from Gawal Mandi in Lahore, and up until 8 in the morning when the polling did open, 8:30 Pakistan time, there was not that much of a significant turnout. But here at the Election Commission of Pakistan, where I am currently, they are projecting the trend to change. That being said, they right now, the Election Commission, as we speak, has not received any complaint of any electoral hindrances, which is certainly encouraging. All of the political parties, including the Pakistan People's Party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, have called for an urgent lifting, an immediate lifting of the ban on the internet services. Ananya?
All right, Anas, if I could come to you for one more question, what is the biggest issue in this year's election when it comes to the voters? We have, of course, the economic issues that has been going on in the country. But apart from that, just yesterday we saw 3 back-to-back terror attacks, 2 in Balochistan, 1 in Karachi. But when it comes down to a 9-to-5 man, woman in Pakistan, what is the biggest issue?
I think the biggest issue is rising inflation levels and unemployment and poverty. I think that is the biggest issue, the biggest challenge that the new government, whosoever is sworn into power, or rather elected into power, would be facing would be grappling with as and when they come to power. That is probably the biggest issue, because you've got to remember, you've got rising inflation levels, and Pakistan would have to go and opt for a new IMF program in the coming days. Whosoever comes into power, they would have to go and opt for an IMF program. So we would see a further rise in inflation, and of course that would again mean more burden on the common man. So that is something that has to be that is the biggest problem. And of course unemployment, as you rightly mentioned there earlier, that about 29 to 30% of the population in Pakistan is youth, and interestingly enough, about 55 to 60% of the vote this election is also the youth as well. In fact, 17 million new voters, the first-time voters, are there in these elections which are currently underway. So the bigger challenge would be one, unemployment, and secondly, rising inflation levels. Ananya?
All right, Ms. Khan, if I could come back to you, I have some figures for you. As my correspondent also mentioned, Pakistan has 128 registered voters, right, out of which we are told that 59 million are women. That's about 46% of the registered voters. But when we compare that with the women who are competing in the National Assembly, there are 4,807 men candidates, and we have exactly 312 women candidates. I want to ask you, what is your take on the representation of women in national politics in Pakistan, rather the underrepresentation?
Ananya, that's a brilliant question, and it's one of the things which people should be raising. I, for one, as a political activist, am hugely disappointed that our recommendation really for women participation in politics, and particularly for the general seats, should be at least meagerly 5%. But this time, all the major parties who are who've had pretty much a level playing field, Pakistan People's Party, the Pakistan Muslim League Noon, and other parties, have actually disappointed us. Not only the quality of the tickets awarded, the candidates, there's a huge debate about that. I'm personally very, very disappointed, but they've actually performed very badly, 4.77%. That's well under the 5%. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has actually done a little bit better, but of course, the candidates that they've selected are unrecognizable. So they've done a little bit better at 8%, but because they really do not have as many chances to win the seats. I think for 2024, the fact that the Pakistan Muslim League Noon has two female faces across all their jalsas and across their banners, Maryam Aurangzeb and Maryam Nawaz Sharif, of course, and other faces as well, and Asifa Bhutto Zardari for the first time making an appearance. I think it is very depressing for people like me. And then the quality of the selection has been very poor. So what are they trying to tell us? People like us, and particularly women who want to be engaged in politics, who want to be supporting women participation, feel like this is an opportunity that all the political parties have missed. And I think that is extremely disengaging and depressing. That probably is the reason. For PTI, for example, the voter turnout, the 18 to 23-year-olds that should have been out there, perhaps because, make no mistake, the PTI today looks nothing like the skipper's PTI. One of the reasons is, as you rightly pointed out, that 2-3 of the more famous faces are behind bars and the rest of them are in hiding. But the ones who've been given the candidates, even the women candidates that I am saying that they have given a higher percentage, are not traditional PTI. They're new parachuters. They have absolutely no background in politics. So, of course, I mean, for me, it's extremely discouraging trend and something that needs to be put right fairly immediately.
Exactly, and Pakistan's history of politics will show that a familiar face goes a long way in Pakistan. Ms. Khan, last question to you. Many might not know Pakistan is yet to see a full-term prime minister. I want to ask you, do you think it will be different this time? And please keep it short.
I seriously doubt that. And the reasons are record high inflation from last September. And I think that the challenges are very high for this government. We're expecting the PMLN government to form in the center and perhaps with affiliated smaller parties in Punjab. But it is going to be a very difficult, a very challenging time for any government to come in. And, you know, there are concerns already. There are rumors already of a vote of no confidence or something happening along the way. I hope that these are not true, but it seems extremely difficult until and unless everyone decides on a truth and reconciliation policy like Bilawal Bhutto has suggested, and unity, a unified stand on economic policy which has which is at least for 6 months to at least a couple of years. That is what will put things right. If we don't do that immediately after these elections, I think we'll be looking at, again, a very short government, perhaps 3 years, maybe even shorter than that.
All right, Ms. Reem Khan, thank you so much for speaking with us here on WION and getting us all those insights from Lahore.